Hi, this is Kelsey from the Central PA Food Bank, and in this video we're going to be going over some basic food safety and kitchen safety tips. There are 4 key steps to remember in keeping food safe and preventing food poisoning, and those are clean, separate, cook, and chill. The first step is to clean, and that is remember to wash our hands, surfaces, and utensils often. Wash hands and arms under warm running water. Apply a good amount of soap. Scrub hands and arms for at least 10 to 15 seconds. Clean under fingertips, fingernails, and between fingers. Rinse hands and arms thoroughly under warm water. Dry hands and arms using a single-use paper towel or a hand dryer. Be sure to wash utensils, cutting boards, plates, as well as surfaces such as countertops often using hot soapy water, and especially after handling raw meat. Be sure to always rinse produce under hot or warm running water. You don't need to rinse eggs, meat, or poultry, and this actually can be harmful because it can spread bacteria that's found in those products. So we're just gonna rinse under warm water our fruits and vegetables. The next step in keeping food safe is separate, and this is about avoiding cross-contamination. Whenever you're cutting fruits and vegetables, make sure you cut them on a separate cutting board than you would use for chicken, meat, or any sort of raw product. Same goes for plates. You want to make sure that you don't put any raw foods on the same plate as ready-to-eat food. And that's because raw foods such as meat and poultry can carry harmful bacteria when they're not cooked. That can spread to foods that you're not going to cook. So make sure that you keep those separate. The next food safety step is to cook food to the right internal temperature. You want to cook food to the right internal temperature so that it kills the germs inside that can make you sick. When you think a food is done, use a food thermometer to place into the thickest part of the meat and check to make sure it's at the right temperature. The last food safety step is to chill by refrigerating and freezing properly. Make sure all perishable foods are in the refrigerator or the freezer within 2 hours. Never marinate or thaw meat on the counter. The safest way to marinate and thaw meat, poultry, is to put it in the refrigerator. You also want to be sure to separate foods when you're storing them in the fridge or freezer. On the bottom shelves go raw poultry, such as chicken, turkey, or duck. Then's raw ground meat, raw pork, then you put eggs and raw steak, then any raw seafood and fish, and then at the top will be ready to eat foods and fully cooked foods. Next, we're going to talk about some general kitchen safety tips, talking about knife skills. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you pick the right knife for the right job. So if I'm cutting a strawberry, probably not going to use this big knife. It's also important to make sure that you're using a sharp knife instead of a dull knife. Dull knives actually are more dangerous because they're more likely to slip, and you're also more likely to use them like a saw, which is likely to cut yourself. Let's talk about how to safely hold a knife. So with a knife like this, you want to pinch your finger and your thumb and your first finger, either here on the heel of the blade or here on the back, depending on your hand size. And then take your other 3 fingers and wrap them around like this. Next, you're going to make sure that you have the tip of your knife staying on the cutting board for a small forward downward motion. Make sure to not pick up your knife super high, as that can increase your risk of cutting yourself. You also want to make sure your fingers are out of the way and do kind of a bear claw like this. We can't talk about kitchen safety without talking about fire safety. So whenever you turn on your stove, whether it's a gas or electric range, make sure to never leave it unattended. Also be sure that you never put anything that could catch fire by the flame or by the electric range, whether that is a recipe on paper or a dish rag or an oven mitt. Make sure you stow that far away from the flame. Also be mindful of the clothes you're wearing and don't wear anything with long, loose, baggy sleeves, as they could catch fire. Whenever you're finished, be sure to turn off the stove and make sure all appliances are turned off. Lastly, we'll go over some basic safety tips for cooking with pots and pans. First, when you're cooking with a pan, make sure that the handle here is not facing out where it could be knocked over. This is especially important if little kids or pets are around, because we don't want to cause any serious burns. So just make sure that that handle is pointed in like this. You always want to use a dry cloth or oven mitt, and that'll keep you from getting burned. If it's damp, it actually will conduct the heat and could burn you. All right, with a pot here with a lid, if it's glass, we want to be careful to make sure that hot glass doesn't go on a cold surface. That could cause the glass to shatter. Also, when you're opening up, if there's steam, if there's been boiling water or liquid in here, grab the top of it and make sure to open away from you. That way you don't get a steam burn or nothing bubbles up and burns you. Never add water to something that has a hot oil or butter in it, as it'll splash and burn you. These few simple steps can help keep you and your family safe in the kitchen.